We got some interesting details about the Auburn defense from Hugh Freeze at his weekly presser on Monday.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Hugh Freeze went to the podium on Monday for his weekly presser and, of course, kind of put a bow on Baylor and then look ahead to Ball State. And though not much was said about Ball State, I think some larger questions about this team, offensively and defensively, we'll be able to see what that looks like starting against Ball State. But first things first, I think the biggest news is Champ Anthony, Auburn's starting defensive back, will miss time. He broke his thumb, which is not ideal, especially for a guy like Champ who plays so hard and obviously broke it. I mean, had a major leg injury a year ago. He finally comes back and then he breaks his thumb. So that's awful. That stinks. It will require surgery per Hugh Freeze, and he will miss some time. So he won't play this Saturday. He already got ruled out against Ball State. So what does this mean? I mean, you got to think, and we'll talk more about the defensive strategy in a moment, but you've got to think that they are going to try some different things and maybe not even scheme. I think they trust their scheme, but personnel in the defensive backfield. And so I think this probably speeds that process up a little bit because there's you don't have to split those reps with Champ over the next few weeks, assuming it's a few weeks. Hopefully it's just 1 week. That'd be great. But I do wonder if you see more mixing and matching with guys in that safety room. Do we see some guys try nickel a little bit more? I'm not sure, but I do think we can all agree that what we saw against Baylor defensively wasn't ideal. I don't think it's as big of an issue as several folks do, but it's not ideal, and it's something that needs to get cleaned up. One of the things, it was actually probably the most interesting part of the press conference, he was asked about the defense, and he talked about them being tired in the postgame, I believe, until he was asked about that. And this is a long quote, but I think it's pretty interesting, so I'm going to read the whole thing. We had a long talk yesterday with Coach Dom, myself, Durkin, and the defensive staff trying to figure out how to process what we felt. Feelings can be misleading at times, and you don't want to make too much of that. Obviously, we found a way to win the football game, but do we feel like we were crisp and fresh? I get making mistakes. You miss some tackles in week 1 usually. However, I feel like we tackled really well in live scrimmages, the 2 that we had. It was 140 degrees when we got there, and our emotions on defense were an emotional group, and that adds to the drain. Then give Baylor credit. They hit us in the mouth early. I don't know if it was just a combination of all that, but it seemed like we weren't fresh and crisp. Even at the end, when we got a 4th down stop to win the game, there was very little emotion to celebrate. It was almost like relief. I don't know if we pushed too hard during the week. We looked at the load counts on all the bodies to try to figure out where we were not fresh enough going into it. We'll try to make changes on whatever we process that to be with Dom's help, nutrition's help, and DJ and the practice format and stuff. And he said a little bit more, but just kind of went on to say, like, they didn't play like they prepared. And there were a few other questions where he was asked about like safety specifically. And I don't think he said names specifically, but like it kind of felt like he was alluding to Caleb Harris, who I think he's a good safety, but did not have a good game. I think we all can agree on that. I like that this conversation happened, and he is right. Like, all of these guys are super emotional players. That's part of what makes them so good, especially these guys who were freshmen last year, now true sophomores this year. A lot of passionate guys, and the upperclassmen as well. But when you think about, Malik Blockton and DeMarcus Riddick and Jay Crawford, and I mean, a lot of these guys that were risers a year ago who are now firmly in the defense's core this season, we didn't really see that emotion on Friday night. we didn't really see that. And I think Hugh Freeze's point of like, all right, you won the game. And it was just kind of like they just walked off the field. Like that is true. I noticed that when it happened, but it did feel like it was relief. And it should have been like, we just won the game finally, especially when that's been a big talking point of who's going to be that dude, who's going to be that dog when the game was in reach and you say, I'm going to win it. Like the defense did technically do that. So I don't know what's up with that. I'm glad that they're looking at it, whether it's load counts or whatever that might be. I'm glad that that's happening for sure. I just don't know. I don't know. Is that something you can fix emotionally against Ball State? I'm not sure. I'm not sure you can just fix that against Ball State. But if you do, and if you look like, oh my goodness, this defense is ready, they seem different, they seem more crisp and fresh, then I think that's good. I think it'd be a good move for the coaching staff, for sure. Staying on the defensive side of the ball, I think it was Justin Ferguson, that asked about Darian Smith. Darian Smith was Auburn's highest rated defensive player according to PFF. He only played a few snaps, but he talked about Darian's production in the pass rushing game. And I'm curious to see if we see more from a guy like him. Freeze did kind of say, like, in every game, is he going to be physically ready? I think he kind of wanted to say, like, against an SEC offensive line, will he be able to do that? I think you wanted to say that without like pooping on Baylor. It's kind of my takeaway on that. But yeah, it's clear that a conversation is happening about these safeties and about defensive coverage. He was asked about the linebacker room as well. He's like, they were great in stopping the run. They were not good in stopping the pass. And once again, he kind of keeps reiterating that during the week in preparation, they didn't really see those issues. And I think a lot of that was kind of hinting at Caleb Harris's game. So I'm hoping it was just a bad game. I'm hoping that was it. Because honestly, like if you take away those two long plays, the 4th and 9, that was a busted coverage. And then the play in Baylor's second drive that got them to 1st and goal where Auburn ended up getting a goal line stop. Like if you do take those two plays away, I think everything does feel pretty different, but that's not how football works. It's a few plays a game that can, swing all the momentum and kind of set the tone. So we'll see. We'll see exactly what happens with all of that moving forward. We got some offensive news as well. And he also had an interesting answer to a question about Jackson Arnold's legs and the involvement in the offense moving forward. That's next, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Game Time's the best place to buy tickets. If you want to go see the Auburn Tigers this weekend as they return to Jordan-Hare Stadium, Game Time's probably going to be the best way to do that. Pull up the app, download the Game Time app. It's free. And when you make your free account, use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply again. That's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. Today's show also brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Here's the latest Auburn line for you. Ball State at Auburn. Auburn is a 43.5 point favorite. I'm going to be honest, wouldn't touch that line. Wouldn't touch it at all. Because some of it depends on what we do. Are we trying to do different things? Are we giving more guys reps on defense? Are we going to put Deuce Knight in the second half? I don't know. There's too many variables. I'm not touching it. But if you want to, head over to FanDuel today. Download the FanDuel app by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place that first $5 bet. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Few offensive notes. Damari Austin, it looked like he injured his shoulder in the Baylor game. That's exactly what happened. Hugh Freeze said that he would be questionable Saturday against Ball State, which if he's questionable at all, my opinion is just don't play him. Just don't play him. Give Darrell Robinson reps. Give Omar Mabson reps. And of course, Jeremiah Cobb can lead the way. I assume that's what would happen if Damari would miss time. Or if you want to let Damari play the first two drives, I mean, I don't think this is going to be a close game. I think Auburn's going to be able to do kind of what they want offensively. So obviously that's a big note. I kind of get the feeling that if they were going to Oklahoma next week, Damari would play. That's just kind of my feel. Like, don't rush anybody back. I have no issue sitting guys in this one. Hugh Freeze was asked about Jackson Arnold and, the plays he made with his legs, and if there would be any kind of intentionality in making that a larger part of the offense. And Hugh Freeze said, if it helps us win, but it's going to kind of be by game plan and we'll see exactly what happens. I don't think it's a surprise. I don't think it surprised Hugh Freeze and the staff that Jackson Arnold could run the football. I don't think it surprised them as much as it may have surprised everyone else. They're used to seeing this guy. I know they didn't practice live, but they had to know, like, you can't run those plays and not see some sort of burst from him in practice. And there was kind of, talks about the too high, they stayed in too high. And so typically, that's when you're going to hand the ball off or run a little bit more. But I do want to see what Ball State does. Do they try to stop the run? Do they try to stop the pass and do what Dave Aranda did? I'm fascinated to see. Truly fascinated to see. But excited about it. He also gave major props to the offensive line, said the offensive line performance was one of the best performances for an O-line in a long time. And I have to agree. You got to throw Kentucky last year into it just because of what Jarquez Hunter was able to do. That was a pretty dominating thing, but it did feel like that was more Jarquez than the offensive line. There was just pure domination up front by Connor Lew and Jeremiah Wright. And he gave Too Tall some love, which we did in the post game or maybe in the Sunday morning show. We gave him some love as well. So it's kind of nice to see that echoed. Y'all know I'm a Too Tall Miller guy. I am a fan of Too Tall. And I think he's a top 5 offensive lineman on this team, but the fact that he came off the bench and was still excellent, I think is good. I think is really, really good. So the two biggest things I think from Hugh Freeze were the injury notes. Damari Austin, questionable. Then, of course, Champ Anthony, a much larger deal just because he is for certain going to miss time and has to, have surgery on his thumb. And once again, you just hate it because he battled back from that gruesome leg injury a year ago. I hope he doesn't miss too much time. I really hope he just misses a few weeks and would love to have him back by Oklahoma at the latest, but we'll see. They didn't really give any kind of timeline. He just said a few weeks. So we'll see if they rush him back by Oklahoma. Those are my biggest takeaways from Hugh Freeze's presser on Monday. We'll talk about it more with Kyle Rush of The Barn tomorrow. So make sure you're subscribed if you're watching on YouTube. If you're make sure you're subscribed if you're tuning in on your favorite audio app. Like the video, subscribe, all that good stuff. Really helps the show out a ton. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.